Hi and welcome to this EstimatorXpress Getting Started video. In this video we shall be going through the Reports section. To go to the Reports, I need to go to the Reports tab along the top here and click. In the Reports section, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click the Delete Zeros button and remove resources with a quantity of 0 and remove resources with a cost of 0. This removes all the unwanted materials, labour and plant that we haven't costed for from the reports, tidying them up, making them much shorter. The first report we're going to go into is the cost by material type. This one is a graphical report as indicated by the pie chart icon on the right hand side. I've highlighted the report, so I'm going to click Open Report now. In this report I see a graphical breakdown of the costs of the materials. I can see that bricks are 22.1% of the material costs, carcassing timber coming in at 12%. This can be useful to identify where a resource might be jumping up the cost of the build. In this instance, on the estimate I'm using, I've used a concrete interlocking tile, which is relatively cheap compared up to something like a slate or plain tile. If I'd used a plain tile, I would have much increased roof tile cost there, and it may be that I'd want to refer to the customer, say, okay, if we change the tile type, we'd reduce the cost on materials, fitting time, labour and such, bringing the cost of the build down. In the case here, as bricks being 22.1%, it may be worthwhile saying to the customer a cheaper facing brick would bring the cost down significantly compared to what it is now. I can also see the actual costs of this as I hover over. It gives me a value, but also I can toggle and see the actual values themselves. Once I'm happy with the costs at a glance there, I can move on and close the report. The next report I'm going to look at is cost by type. I'll highlight that and click Open Report. This one allows me to see that material is 43.3% of the cost of the job, labour's sitting at 27.3%. We have subcontractor costs there at 24.1%, though that will be including materials in its own way, such as hardwood flooring, electrical items, plumbing items, on the supply and fit side, as we've included them in our subcontractor costs workbook. I can see the cost of these once again by clicking toggle. So as I come down here now, materials coming in at 9,719, labour at 6,125. Once I'm happy with how this is working out, I can move on and click Close. The next report I'm going to go into is sales price including profit. This one is located down here. This one is a figures report as indicated by the icon in the column. I can click Open Report. In here now I can see that I have my build phases broken down and I have their costs and total costs included. I have in the far right hand column the sum of total including profit, excluding VAT, but very importantly I have my sum of profit excluding VAT in this column as well, so I can see that I will be making £1,748 in the brickwork shell. At the bottom there I have a grand total of 6,726. These figures are important as it means you can make the decision if you're going to go ahead with the job, or if you're just going to be treading water with this project, or if you are going to be advancing your business. You also need to make sure that the company overheads are covered by this figure as well. Unless you are building a lot of that into your estimate, then they will be coming out of your profit margin as well. In here, what I can also do is order the phases by date. I can do this by bringing in the date required column. If I hover over the date required, my mouse will change to a 4-pointed cross. If I left click and hold, I can then drag this down into the boxes below. As I hover my mouse between the build phase and item costs, a bar appears. This indicates that if I was to release the mouse button, it would place that column there. In that location, it's not too much use to me. What I can do is if I repeat the process, left click, hold and drag it to the left hand side there. If I hold my mouse to the left hand of the build phase and release, I will see that the date required is now listed. It's listed out of order, so what I can do is click on the box there, the right hand side, little drop down menu that we can work with, and I can select newest. This puts everything as foundations, footing, oversight and slabbing. I can right click, remove subtotals, and have all my build phases in date. When I'm happy with that, I can close the report. The next reports I'm going to be going into are cost reports. I can see down here as I come down, I can have a itemized list of my roof tiler costs. So I'm going to open that report now. This report allows me to see the description there of the items, so roof tiler or roof tiler and mate, and the items that they are working on. Finally, give me a total cost for that labour type. So I need to make sure that I've got 520 quid set aside to pay the roofers. If I'm happy with that figure, I can then close the report. I can also do the same thing with the bricklayer cost. Highlight the bricklayers and then open the report. I can now see the grand total for the bricklayers. I have other reports which will give me all the labour types in one place and all their costs, but these serve as quick at a glance reports so that you don't have to filter through lots of information. They are there ready for you to dive into. If I'm happy, I can close the report. Along those lines, I can also use a report called labour used. Labour used will give me a breakdown by build phase of the labour used within that phase and the costs per phase as well. Similar to how I've done previously, I could add in a date required to filter everything in date order, or I could remove the phases and just see the descriptions of the labourers. I can do that now by hovering over the build phase till my mouse changes to a 4-pointed cross, clicking and holding and dragging it away to the column above. This then leaves me with my bricklayers and mate, 2 plasterers and a mate, bricklayer, bricklayer's labourer, and their costs. This gives me an opportunity just to see how much the costs are per gang, or by labour type. If I bring in type, I get to see the bricklayers all grouped together and their total costs grouped together. In here as well, I can see the carpenters, decorators, groundworkers, plasterers, roofers, all in one place. When I'm happy with this, I can leave the report. The next report we're going to go into is very similar to the labour used report. If I scroll down, it's the materials used report. Highlight that and click Open Report. This one gives me a breakdown of the costs per build phase of the materials. So I can see that there are costs for the blue circle, Mastercrete original cement, building sand bulk bag, cavity closers, etc. and the cost in that build phase. If I scroll across, I can see my total costs. If I come down to the bottom, I can see my grand total costs. In here, if I wish to, I could filter by what types of material there are, whether they are aggregates or bricks, blocks, concrete products, timber products. There are other reports that can serve that. We'll be taking a look at that one next, but this one gives the quantities and the costs. We can refer the costs that are listed here to the next report we're going to be taking a look at. I'm going to close this one. I'm going to open the Quotation Inquiry. In the Quotation Inquiry report, I have my materials listed by type: aggregates, bathroom materials, blocks, bricks, carcassing timber. I also have the description, the purchase units, such as each, so building sand bulk bag are purchased each, quantity required, wastage, and order quantity. This report serves so that I can export this and send it to a merchant, as it includes no pricing information. If you use a merchant that supplies a certain type of material, be it aggregates, blocks, concrete materials, and bricks, then we can filter this report down to show that. If I come down to my little drop down box here, I can deselect all, show aggregates, blocks, bricks, concrete, and concrete products. There are no others included in here that I want to add, so I'm going to click OK, and this will now filter the materials down to those specific types. If I wanted to, I can now export that using the Export Report button which then allows me to save this as an XLS file, which I can either copy and paste from into an email or just attach to an email to a merchant saying, this is what I need, can you give me a price please? By grouping all the items together such as this, it allows you as well to get a better price for all your bulk bags ordering in one go. You can also, if I return that to default by selecting all, bring in the supplier. So if I bring in supplier to the right hand side of type, I can see that these are supplied by the price tracker. If I bring that into the left hand side, I can see all the items supplied by the price tracker, and as I come down, any other materials that might be from another supplier, in this case provisional for the bathroom. Once you're happy with that, you can close the report. The final report we're going to go take a look into is the priced customer quote. This report includes your profit markup and is the one that is sourced through to the customer quote. Now I am in my priced customer quote report. I have all the build phases, item used for, and descriptions listed, as well as purchase units, quantities, and also sum total including profit excluding VAT listed. These figures are the ones that will end up going towards the final quote when I do my Word printout. This is also one you can print out if you need a detailed list of items for the customer. If they want it in a very Excel format instead of a Word quote, you can use this one and manipulate it down to just show the data that you want. As the figures include the profit, you don't have to worry about giving away your pre-profit figures. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in date required before build phase. Just filter these oldest to newest, putting them in order for me. I'm now going to leave this report. The final thing I'm going to do before I leave these reports is I'm going to return to the materials used section, as there is a function that you can use that makes finding random materials much easier if you're not sure where they're coming through on your reports. I'm going to open that report again, and in here now I've got my build phases, I've got my descriptions. If I'm looking at something and going, okay, where is that material coming from? I'm going to use the decoration as my example there. So I've clicked on the drop down box, deselected everything, and then clicked internal decoration. And I can see there now my contract emulsion magnolia, my gloss brilliant white, so forth. But if I don't know where they are, I don't know how to remove them if they need to be removed. So what I can do is I can go to the reference line here, hover over until my mouse turns to the 4-pointed cross, left click and drag that down. If I put it in after the description, I can then see the workbooks that this is appearing. Now it looks like there I've got workbook and the workbook total. So what I can do is I can right click and I can remove subtotals, tidying that up for me. But I can now see that I have that contract emulsion magnolia 5 litre. It appears in my structural opening. It appears in my external walls, which would be the internal decorating. It appears in my typical panel doors for painting the reveals, and also in my Windows workbook for also for painting the reveals. This way, if I'm not sure where material is coming from, the reference allows you to track it down, so if it does need removing or changing, you can do so. Now I've got that information, I can leave this report and do that task if I needed to. Thank you for watching this Getting Started video on the report section.